you feeling lost in yourself or business or unsure of who you really are? Believe you me, you're not alone. In this episode of the Powerful Content Podcast, I'm joined by life and empowerment coach Dawn Walton to explore the idea of identity and how it shapes your sense of fulfillment and plays a vital role in your life and business success. Together, we unpack what it means to truly know and embrace yourself, the telltale signs of losing your identity, and how to reconnect with who you really are. Dawn also shares her wisdom on balancing your masculine and feminine energies, setting boundaries that serve you, and finding consistency without feeling forced. Now, if your business or life is starting to feel a little meh, then this conversation may be exactly what you need to help you build a business and life that feels authentically you. Welcome to the Powerful Content Podcast, your go-to source for content creation, strategy, and business inspiration. I'm your host, Mel Daniels, content strategist, coach, and speaker, empowering women across the globe to grow their business with powerful content that connects, nurtures, and converts. So if you're ready to create standout content that gets you noticed and remembered, or build an aligned audience who love you and are ready to buy from you, you're in the right place. I believe that content has the power to connect us all. It's up to you how you use it. Listen in for genuine and insightful chats with guests, as well as practical tools and strategies from me. It's so lovely to have you here. Let's dive into the show. I acknowledge the Wongal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country that I am recording from today. I recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nation people listening today. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to episode 143 of the Powerful Content Podcast. It is so lovely to have you here with us today. And I say us because joining me is life and empowerment coach Dawn Walton. Welcome to the podcast, Dawn.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And thank you to your listeners and watchers for being here too.
Absolutely, yes. We'll be covering off the topic of identity today. But before we start, in your bio, you mentioned, and I love these three words, that you live by the words thriving, living, and giving. So what do those words mean to you?
They mean a lot to me, first of all. And I think the first thing is that thriving is when we really embrace the life that we've got, the life that we want. We enjoy the little things as well as the big things. And we look at the world through kindness eyes, that kindness lens, if you like. That's what thriving means to me. Living is being yourself. It's to honoring who you are and what your desires are, what matters to you. That is all part of living. And giving, one of my big values is being of service, volunteering, all of that around that service area. And I think giving, it cultivates an air of generosity. And I think when we generate that, the generosity can come from love, self-kindness, kindness in itself, time to look after you and to do yourself justice. Because giving, in order to give, we really have to feel that we've got something to offer. And when we embrace that, I think that's just three words that we can live by.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I think it's so beautiful that you do mention the word values in that description just then and how you actually do live by your values. I think that's so important when people really understand their values and then can bring them to their life as well. And I know that we're going to be diving into this topic around identity and, what it means to be, your true self today. So I'd love to know, before we really dive deep into this topic, why does it matter that we understand our identity or know what it is?
Big thing, really. It matters because we need to know who we are. And I'll sort of backtrack a little bit because it's easier to explain when we lose our identity, when we actually lose sight of who we are. So when we lose sight, when we lose our identity, it happens for various reasons. changes in our environment, workplace, job, home. It doesn't have to be. It could just be as simple as, I'm not where I thought I would be at this stage in my life. I don't know who I am anymore. I don't recognize who I am. And the reason why that's important is actually in that statement, because we don't know who we are. We don't know our unique selves. We don't know what we want, what we desire anymore, what brings us joy. When we lose our identity, we tend to lose our sense of self. And with that, we might then develop ways that we start looking for that sense of self in things that really don't serve us as well. In looking at other people, at what their opinion is of us, we become more dependent on others. Those external factors become really important and take us away from who we actually are. So that's why it's important. Our uniqueness, and you talk about it a lot in your coaching with all that content about us being unique and about us actually capitalizing on that. And that is why it's so important. That's why our identity is ours to own.
Yeah. So then what are some symptoms, or what could be some signs that someone has lost their identity? Because perhaps we have listeners today saying, oh, I don't really resonate with this because, I know who I am. But do they really? So what are the signs or the symptoms that might surface if we have lost our identity?
I think the first one would be a disconnect. And that's a disconnect. Maybe you feel that you're going through the motions, but nothing really floats your boat anymore. Maybe the things that used to bring you joy, that used to just spark a little bit of zest in you, a little bit of get up and go, that they're just no longer, that's not being ignited anymore. And the fact that you just forget what has brought you joy. And like I say, sometimes you just think, was I ever joyous? That self-talk, your self-talk becomes mean. It's like, well, of course you can't do that. Your people-pleasing increases. And a lot of the time, and I know a lot of people in your audience may well think, well, I'm not a people pleaser, I do believe we all have a little bit of it in us. And when we feel that disconnect and we don't know who we are ourselves, people pleasing can set in just from apathy. So it's just like, yeah, you do that, you decide that. And all of a sudden what we're doing is we're giving away our power, we're disempowering ourselves. And all of those things can start to almost roller coaster into shrinking and limiting who we are instead of expanding and empowering ourselves. And it can show up in so many different ways. It can go from just the fact that you've fed up, feel meh instead of marvelous, or that you really feel a bit depressed. I'm not a clinician, but you just feel totally out of sorts. That could be you just totally forgotten who you are.
So if someone is feeling like that, Dawn, they are feeling disconnected, they've forgotten what brings them joy, they have that mean self-talk happening, and they may see, or they may have some self-awareness now, particularly around them being people pleasers. If someone can see those signs, and we know that that may be a result of shrinking and limiting themselves and not knowing who they are, what can someone do? What can someone do to turn that around?
The main awareness is the biggest thing. Once you feel that it's not, the blame game's gone, you're not saying it's their fault, it's this situation, etc. For you, it's that sitting that down and thinking, almost, who do I actually want to be? Because you're almost starting with a blank slate. If you can't remember what brings you joy, what floats your boat, what really, even if you do them, they're fleeting. And you're almost just brushing them off. When you're aware, sit down and just start to think, what do I want right now? Because that person that you were, even if you can't remember them, that's not your person today. That's not who you are today. You've gone through a lot of change. You've gone through a lot of growth. You may have gone through a lot of challenges. You are a different person. So asking yourself, do you know what matters to me right now? What does make me smile? What does, you touched base on it before, values is vitally important. And we could talk about that as a totally separate a topic. Knowing what values you have and how they are sprinkled within your day-to-day living is a huge start. A lot of my clients, the people I work with, general friends that I speak to, when they feel that disconnect, when you start to think about what brings you joy and what floats your boat, what lights you up, all of a sudden the aha moment is, I don't do that anymore. I've stopped calling that person. I don't do that action. I don't take that exercise. I don't put myself out there. I've stopped going to networking because I think I can do it on my, and all of these things are just like, wow, I didn't actually realize they were all connected with what I value. And if your high value is connection, and you're not going out there networking, you're not talking to friends, you're not having conversations and whatever, can you see how you may feel disconnected and see how you think, well, this who I am? This is not me.
Yeah. So if someone is feeling like they are a little bit disconnected with who they are or who they want to be, then they should be asking those questions about, what do I really want in life? What really matters to me? And what brings me the greatest joy in life? And search that out. I love that.
Absolutely.
And I think that you've got a free resource, Dawn, around helping people identify that. Do you want to just speak to that for a second?
Yes, when there's a number of questions in there that will really, really help you just try and find almost that cornerstone of what it is that matters to you. And probing questions, self-coaching, it is one of the most marvelous things we can gift ourselves. And a list of questions, a list of just things to get you thinking so that you can think, wow, is this who I am? Is this, even if you can start to answer some questions honestly and where you are now and say to yourself and discount that, then you're winning. Or if you can turn around and think, God, yes, okay, that really, really, I haven't done that for a long time. I didn't really realize that that matters to me so much. The questions and that introspection that I invite your readers to look at can honestly help you think that I'm not living my life to what I think matters to me. And indeed, has that changed? Because it can change. You don't have to be that person that wanted to have that business and have a family the same as you were 5 years ago. Things could have totally changed for you. So open yourself up to that inquiry and getting curious. My favorite word is where this all starts. It really, really does help you rediscover exactly what you are and who you want to be.
I think you make such an important point there, Dawn, about the fact that we change. Things change in our life. Circumstances change, experiences change us, but it doesn't mean that we have to stay that same person. We can evolve too, can't we?
And we should. And it's sometimes change is voluntary and involuntary, and sometimes a mix of both. That whole voluntary one, the prime example with that would be of having a baby, getting pregnant. Oh, I wanted it. Now it's like, oh my God, it's happening. And my life has changed forever. But it was something that you wanted, you went through the process and it happened. So, but the involuntary bit is, oh, crikey, what happens now? Who am I now? That's a prime example of that. Or starting a business. It's the same again. I want it. It really matters to me. And then bang, I'm in it. Wow, I've got to create content. We've got to be able to do these things. Who am I? Do I need to show up as myself? Can I hide behind something else? You see, all of those different things, they all become challenges to us. And it's how we navigate those challenges and go through them all that help us. And if we can bring elements of our identity into that, the challenge becomes an awful lot easier to actually overcome.
Yeah. So I think that you've kind of answered my next question that I was going to ask you, Dawn. And that was, what is possible for us if we do live a life that's truly aligned to our identity and who we want to be. And you've just said that we can overcome challenges and we can do almost anything. But is there anything else? What else can we achieve?
I think the whole thing about that, and again, I don't want to sound like some sort of guru on there. You could achieve anything, anything you put your mind to. But The opportunities and possibilities out there when you embody who you are, that is the big difference. Because let's go back to that person who wanted to start the business, and then all of a sudden they've stopped going to networking events, or they've started doing all of this. They're actually they're disempowering themselves by not doing the stuff that actually brings them joy. So when they start to go back out into that world again, yes, they've withdrawn and pulled back a little bit, so they feel a bit nervous, they're not game ready, etc. But boom, they get there, and then they go, oh, that's why, this is me. That's why. And there's opportunities and possibilities come up, and you're seeing it through your lens. You're not seeing it through another person's lens, or what perhaps expectations are. And I know that sort of moves a little bit away from the question, but when you know who you are and you can own who you are, you actually are creating so many different possibilities and opportunities for yourself.
So exciting. It's so exciting in your personal life, but also in your business life as well. And I know that, a lot of my listeners may feel that from not only a personal perspective, from a business perspective, because like you said, the business journey, oh my goodness, it can be an absolute roller coaster, can't it? Like there's ups, there's downs, there's the imposter syndrome. Oh my goodness, I've been through it all, most definitely. But when we can lean into the possibilities and the opportunities, that's where the exciting part definitely happens.
And
Love
again,
it.
it is, and again, we just go back to that whole, when we don't recognize ourselves, or we don't feel we're the person that we want to be, not necessarily that we are right in this moment, those actions really do shrink us, because, or inaction, inaction is an action, is in and of itself, isn't it? Whereas when we actually push ourselves that little bit and we think, no, this is who I am, and start taking those actions that embody that, that's when all those possibilities come out.
Yeah, beautiful. So when you talk about identity, I know that you talk about the concept of masculine and feminine. So I'd just like to dive into this a little bit, if we could, please, Dawn. What does it mean? What does it mean to have a masculine and feminine energy? And how does that actually relate to your identity?
Well, great question, and something that I love pulling into my coaching, because from a personal level and a business level, we can all sort of change masculine, feminine across the way. So let me explain. Masculine energy is characterized by the doing. So always achieving, maybe molded by logic, by reason, just by being that whole, right, this is the fact, this is the planning, this is the strategy, this is focus, etc. Your feminine energy, and again, feminine, masculine, it's not male or female, they're just energy, state of being, is more intuitive, a bit oriented towards receiving, allowing, a little bit more vulnerable, and characterized a bit by being. So being around, we're looking at, having empathy, showing a little bit of vulnerability, actually basically just showing up that little bit. And even as I talk about that, you can see the home life, how that can be a big part of it, and also in business, and probably more so in business, when we do have to think, my God, I've got deadlines, we've got to do this, or I've got to get the money in, so I've got to keep pushing. That's a lot of the doing side of masculine energy. And sometimes we need to balance this, and we're talking there about balancing these energies, so that we can experience better harmony and fulfillment with the feminine and the masculine energy. And it's not necessarily always going to be 50-50, but it really helps to bring balance to within your life or in your business.
So does that mean, Dawn, if someone is bringing that push and the hustle, let's say, to their business, that more masculine energy, are they more likely to become overwhelmed and burn out?
Absolutely. And it's an imbalance in anything. I want to talk about balance when we talk about boundaries as well. I mean, this fits so well into the boundary side of things. When we sit in one of these energies or states for too long and over time, for an extended period, we're going to be out of balance. An example of being out of balance in the business from the masculine energy is going to be, really confrontational, really pushing, really trying to do more. And that is going to bring overwhelm into it. On the other side, that lethargy, that feeling a little bit powerless, not being seen in business, then maybe you're sitting into your feminine a bit too much. And then you can see where the imbalance really, really sits. And bringing it back to balance is where we want to see where we can demonstrate both energy qualities, not necessarily, as I say, 50-50, because there will be times when you need to push for lots of things. And there are other times when you've actually got to slow down a little bit to receive things so that you can actually give more.
I love this. So what I'm hearing from you, Dawn, is that balance isn't necessarily equal parts, but it's being able to demonstrate or bring both of those qualities to the table in order to achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve in that moment.
And it's your energy style will change on what that circumstance is as well. You know, we may, I'll tell an example that's not a work related one would be when you feel maybe your partner is, what are you spending money on? What's all of this? We need to pull the reins in and everything. And you think, oh, whatever. And then all of a sudden you've had enough and you just go, right. Oh, you want me to stop spending money then? So I'm not going to buy Baker's Delight bread. I'm not going to do this. And that is like really pushing to the other side, because that's the way that you're controlling what's happening around you. That's you've almost reacted instead of responded there. And that can happen in all parts of our lives. And that is just balancing. It's time to, when we embrace that we've got both, we can actually see the benefits in so many different ways in our normal life. Imagine your husband or your partner said that to you, and then it was, you know what, let's just sit down with this. He's probably right. I've been spending a bit more money. We're spending a little bit more. The bread's going stale and everything, and I'm throwing it out. Let's get a bit more practical. And instead of just diving into the way that you perceived his masculine energy so that you can match it and then get, you know, a bit confrontational, you can actually just, let's settle a little bit, let's bring it to me, and then you can have that simple conversation. The balance is where the magic lies.
Oh, I love that so much. And I'm kind of like half chuckling, Dawn, because I see this, like I see this in my own life happen as well sometimes as well. But, you know, you're right. When you can stop and take that breath and just go, okay, what's actually happening here? And how can I, you know, bring my best self to the table to navigate the situation? Then it just, it becomes a whole heap easier. So let's just talk balance and boundaries. You know, we've started on this topic, but let's talk about them a little bit further. What does that actually look like for you? What does balance and boundaries look like in Dawn's life?
In Dawn's life, well, what it means to me is, you know, I juggle a lot, like most women, most people in life these days. And balance for me is, and boundaries, it is about actually owning and appreciating that I deserve things too. And one thing that I've learned over my years, as just my lived experience as well as in coaching, is if we don't feel we deserve something, we're not going to set boundaries. We're not going to put ourselves first. We're not going to achieve what we want to do because we've got an inherent belief that we believe we don't deserve to do that. So balance and boundaries to me is, I need to balance my wants, needs, desires, and I need to balance them with boundaries so that others know it. If I don't tell people, I can't be blaming or throwing responsibility to other people when they don't even know, again, what matters to me and what in the end fulfills us all and gives us all a wholehearted life as a family, in business, if I don't communicate it and if I don't know that I deserve that.
So you've just mentioned something really interesting then about making sure that you communicate your boundaries to people, because if they don't know, then they don't know. What other challenges might people come across when trying to implement their boundaries or stand firm on their boundaries?
Quite a lot. From a woman's perspective, guilt is a huge roadblock when it comes to boundaries. And again, when we believe that we may well say, no, I want that time, or I'm running this business, or I'm doing this. When we set boundaries, we think, oh my goodness, but that's a bit mean. I should really be grateful for what I've got. I should, I've got this and the kids are healthy and we've got this wage coming in. Oh, I shouldn't really do any more. Guilt and shame sometimes, where we think if I give something a go and it doesn't work, I'm a bit ashamed that my efforts didn't cut the mustard. So I really don't deserve to have this time, this energy. Boundaries for me are, they're for you, that they're a line that keeps you safe and it gets you what you want. Other people have got their boundaries. So it's not about someone, you stopping someone doing something. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges we do think, is that people are going to hate me. Oh my God, I'm so easygoing and I'm such a come-to person. And oh my goodness, they're going to hate me because I've got to start saying no. Those are the things that really stand in our way. And then they're not, because we just have to go gently. And if you've never had boundaries, you're not going to start putting in this great big fence in the middle, because if you are, you will cheese people off and you won't keep them, because again, you're putting them there perhaps for wrong reasons. Let's go back to the masculine of, are you fighting? You just think, well, because he's got them, I'm going to have them. Or they have that time. I see this a lot with clients in relationships, and they're with their loved one and they're just feeling that tension, and all of a sudden they're in complete competition with each other, and they're both putting up boundaries that they've not thought about. They're just doing it tit for tat. You've got one, well, I've got one, and that is never going to work. Your boundaries have to start from you knowing that you deserve that time, that energy, that space. And once you know that, you'll find it an awful lot easier to set boundaries.
I love this discussion about boundaries, Dawn, because I think that we can also apply it to our content as well. I'm always talking about, to really connect with your audience, it's about bringing more you to the table, to your content. And some people think that means exposing everything in their life. It means, talking about challenges that have happened in the past, or traumas, or things that, they might not necessarily want to talk about, like their family and things like that. But each one of us can have our own beautiful boundaries of what we're willing to share and what we're willing to communicate with other people. So I think that that's a great description of boundaries that you've just given us, in terms of it's what you deserve. It's your energy and your time, and it's worthy of it. Such a beautiful reminder. Thank you so much for that, Dawn.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
So what advice would you give to someone who's listening right now and who's feeling a little bit lost, who's feeling disconnected, has listened to you talk today, Dawn, and gone, yes, I've forgotten the joy, the things that bring me joy. I feel like I might be a people pleaser. What can they do to start to come back to their true self?
Firstly, I would say that knowing what truly matters is a huge, huge thing. It's vital to living a connected life. And when I say connected, I mean connected with yourself as well as to others. If we don't know what matters, then how can we really start to find out who we truly are? I don't want that to sound bigger than it is. Oh my God, have I got to sit there? Have I got to go on a silent retreat and work out what matters to me? No, really you don't. You can really start, again, in my download, you can start with a number of questions that just get that inquiry going, and start small. I would say start to just sit down, boil the kettle. What brings you joy? Just ask yourself, see what comes up, and then what won't you tolerate? Tolerations are things that we can see as negative in a lot of ways. We can think, well, I'm not tolerating that. I'm not tolerating that. And they all just sound like, again, very masculine. I won't tolerate that. I won't do all that. But when you know what you won't tolerate, that then could actually become a boundary for you. So if one of your tolerations, again, talking about content, I don't want to have my family involved in something. So I won't tolerate seeing my family on social media. That can easily then be avoided. Well, guess what you need to do now? Demonstrate that that's the case. Start taking actions that that's the case. This is going to be empowering to you once you know let that toleration work for you. And then those are the questions about who do you love being around and why. That makes such a big difference, you know, and simple. But what does your ideal day look like? When you feel disconnected, and I don't mean a dream day, I don't mean like Sydney Harbour with, I don't know, Lady Gaga and whoever on a yacht. I mean, your ideal day, as in, let's get practical here. You get up at 5 in the morning, you go to the gym, you come back. A real ideal day for you. When you can write that down and take that little bit of time to do that, you're going to be surprised, A, how much it's going to bring a smile to your face because you're actually putting in things, yes, you've guessed it, that matter into your day because this is your ideal day. When you've done that, you can actually start pulling things out and start doing things a little bit more that add to that. And then this is going to show you in that tiny little picture, it's going to show you what matters to you. You know, it could be that you pick, like, say me, I'll go on school pickup soon, and that we go and play tennis. Oh, when was the last time I did that? Oh, yes, must be, about 6 months ago. Why aren't I doing it more? See those little things that can just prompt you to realize that you've stopped putting what matters first and life has taken over.
I love that suggestion, Dawn, of leaning into your ideal day. Like I often think of, and I like writing about your ideal day can be a little bit wishy-washy, but looking at it from that perspective, it's like it will really shine through exactly what matters to you and what you want to be doing, so you can take those steps and actions to making it a reality. Oh,
That's
I like
right.
that. I like that.
You know,
Guess what I'm
and
going to be
that's
doing
it.
today.
Yeah, and just honestly, and when that smile comes, I mean, it comes to my face now. When it's sort of going, I'd love to be doing this. You'd be surprised at how much you can actually add into your normal day from that ideal day. You will
Yeah.
be very surprised. And this will then give you that, how much do I want it? Am I prepared to do it? You know, you can go deeper into all of this, but it gets you started. And it gets you started with connecting with who you are and then what you want and also your boundaries. If it is that tennis, and then someone says, oh, do you want to play date my son or whatever, instead of doing your people pleasing, yeah, we'll do that straight away, that's what you want, no problem, you turn around and go, no, me and my son play tennis on a Tuesday. How empowering is that?
So brilliant. I love it so much. There has been so much gold in today's episode, Dawn. Thank you so much for sharing all about identity and how we can, tap back into our true selves again and what amazing things can happen as a result of that. But before we finish up, I'm all about women owning and using their superpowers. So what would you say is your superpower, Dawn?
Oh, my superpower. I'm an ideas person, I'll be totally honest. I love ideas, but the ideas, I'm a bit of a solution inspirer, I would call myself. And I say that because I've got lots of ideas, you have. If someone is talking about what they want to do or how they see something, my mind just goes click, 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 click. And I'm really good at throwing things out there that people can catch and perhaps be inspired by and think, oh, I might try that. So I think that's my superpower.
I love that superpower. That's so brilliant. Do you have any final parting words of wisdom for my listeners before we finish up?
I do, and I'm going to take one of your wonderful words and use it because I use it a lot as well. Consistency is key. I don't want to sound boring. I don't want to sound oh my goodness, yes, I know. But when you start doing these things over time, when you keep remembering what matters to you, when you keep bringing it to the fore, when you keep doing something for yourself, when you keep talking to the people that matter, talking about, this is what's going to really get the momentum going and to help your life be a connected life, be that empowered life that's wholeheartedly yours. But you can't just set and forget, I'm doing it today and everything. You have to have consistency within your boundary setting and everything else in life, because we do show people how to treat us. We do show the world that we matter, that we exist. And if we stop showing them, they forget, because we've all got short memories. So don't be shy, be consistent.
What a beautiful way to end the episode. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Dawn, and sharing your wisdom with my listeners. I truly appreciate you being here.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for listening. That's it for another week. To get more powerful content in your life, make sure you're following along on socials. My handle is @meldbusiness. And just in case you're wondering, the groovy music for this podcast was created by Just Here on SoundCloud. I'd also be super grateful if you took a moment to rate and review this podcast so more amazing women like you can experience the power of content. And if you're like, hell Mel, stop talking, I'm ready to work with you now, here's how we can work some powerful content magic together. Firstly, come and join the Content Effect, my membership inspiring women with service-based businesses to ditch the content chaos and start creating standout content that gets you noticed and makes sales. You can join us by using the link in the show notes or just Google the Content Effect. The second way we can work together is via my one-on-one packages. We can create a sustainable content strategy or start to build out your client journey. It's up to you. Pop on over to meldbusinessservices.com.au/services to find out more. Until next time, have a beautiful week and embrace the power of your content.